I want to read this piece by Jeffrey Toobin. It really is a tour de force of the Toobin principle. And the Toobin principle, as coined by Professor Jay Rosen, is the principle that we can applaud the debate brought about because of the Snowden leaks, but still want to see this guy locked up because what he did was wrong. And this is just more of the same, and Toobin trying to sort of make that construct more palatable. And he starts his piece by saying the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy led directly to the passage of a historic law, the Gun Control Act of 1968. Does that change your view of the assassinations? Should we be grateful for the deaths of these two men? Of course not. But that's the same reason that is now being applied to the actions of Edward Snowden. This is one of the most disingenuous, twisted arguments I've ever made. Now, I don't think that what Toobin's arguing is that by leaking this material, Snowden has committed a crime on the level of assassinating a civil rights leader and a president, or a presidential candidate. I don't think that's what he's saying. But it's hard to tell with this analogy. Maybe he's just making the analogy that bad things can bring about good results. But that's not dispositive of anything. That is his logic is messed up there. Because you know what? Good things can also create good results. And things that aren't so bad can create good results. And whistleblowing can also create good results. So for a guy who has such a legal reasoning, his logic is really, really off base there. And I would also argue that the fact that something good can come about from these leaks indicates that probably what these leaks are in fact not damaging to the United States, but it speaks to the quality of the leaks. And in some ways, if Toobin is going to acknowledge that good things are coming out of this, i.e. reform of what the government is doing, that, to me, is more an argument that what Edward Snowden has done has blown the whistle on something that we all, and it appears that Toobin would agree, the government is doing that is wrong. So by his own construct, he is suggesting that Snowden has addressed a problem that is as bad as assassination of civil rights leaders. That is as bad as gun violence. He goes on. To be sure, Snowden has prompted an international discussion about surveillance, but it's worthwhile to note that this debate is no academic exercise. It has real costs. Consider just a few. What if Snowden is wrong? What if there is no pervasive illegality in the National Security Agency's surveillance programs? Indeed, for all the excitement generated by Snowden's disclosures, there's no proof of any systemic, deliberate violations of law. Well, one of the things he's revealed is that the law that Toobin feels there's no systemic violation of was formed in secret in a process that surely Jeffrey Toobin does not think is appropriate. One that is on a parallel track with every other law that is debated and created in terms of case law in this country. Surely he cannot think the FISA court, creating a law in a non-adversarial situation, creating precedent that can be unchallenged by any other court in the nation, surely he does not think that's appropriate. That has been revealed by the Snowden leaks. We know, well, let me continue with Toobin. Based on the ruling in a 1979 Supreme Court case, Smith v. Maryland, it's well established that individuals do not have an expectation of privacy in the phone numbers they call. First off, that may be the case, but the metadata that we're talking about is vastly different today than it was in 1979. The metadata is vastly different today. And the contracts, the privacy contracts that we signed with AT&T and Verizon promise a certain level of privacy. So there is a legitimate question as to whether or not Smith v. Maryland applies to the idea that the government can track where you are as you move with a cell phone, as opposed to when you make a phone call from your house. So it's not well established. All we have is a precedent from an era at a time where there was no personal computers, where the idea of mobile phones was parodied on Saturday Night Live. I mean, literally light years. He goes on to say that Barton Gelman's Washington Post piece recently reported the NSA sometimes went beyond its authority. There's another word for going beyond your authority in this case. It's called breaking the law. But apparently he can't bring himself to say those words. According to Gelman, the agency privately admits to 2,776 incidents of unauthorized collection of data within a 12-month period. This is bad, but it's not clear how bad. If it's that many incidents out of total, say, 3,000 initiatives, then it's very bad. But if, as is far more likely, it's 2,776 incidents out of many millions, then the errors are less serious. Now, first of all, he is being disingenuous by saying errors, because there are some instances, Barton Gelman made it very clear, which were not errors. There were some instances where this was deliberate. There should be no mistakes, of course, but government surveillance, like any human activity, is going to have errors. Now, if we're going to use the analogy you used right up front, I mean, handguns are used all the time. Only twice did they they assassinate leaders. I mean, even if I was to kill somebody, kill an American, there are 300 million Americans. If I kill one American, what percentage of killing is that? 0.0000003? So come on. What are the actual dollar costs of the Snowden disclosures? Because of Snowden's disclosures, the government will almost certainly have to spend billions of dollars, and thousands of people will have to spend hours reworking our procedures. This is just a bizarre. I mean, is this the argument that is going to offer if lawmakers decide to reform this program? You've wasted all this money. That's just absurd. It's the same with any reform. This is all because a 30-year-old self-appointed arbiter of propriety decided to break the law and disclose what he had sworn to protect. Well, the fact of the matter is that we are seeing lawmaker after lawmaker. The U.S. Congress voted defunding this entire program by 12 votes. 12 votes. So if you're going to poo-poo this guy because he's 30, and question his judgment, then you need to question the judgment of every lawmaker. Rush Holt, Russ Feingold, Wyden, and Udall, and every lawmaker who has called for reform or introduced legislation or has voted to defund this entire program. You need to call them all into question.
I wonder at what age it would have been appropriate for Edward Snowden to speak up.
This is just,
36.
This is the biggest example of credentialism, of very important peopleism, of villagerism. I mean, this is the most sort of vacuous piece I could have ever imagined reading. And then he finishes it with, there is obviously some legitimate debate to be had about the extent and the legality of American surveillance operations. Well, it doesn't sound so obvious from the rest of your piece. And it is a debate that would not happen but for the whistleblowing that Edward Snowden did. Period. End of conversation. All right, I'm just going to do these IMs because I got to jump.
I'm ready for the end of the piece to be like, look, fine, I just don't like the fucking kid.
Right. It's just he's just annoying.